3 morning moves to fix stiffness and boost energy. After 50, 10 min, no equipment. Every man over 50 has the same morning habit. You get up, maybe touch your toes, roll your shoulders, and head straight for the coffee. It feels responsible. It feels like you've warmed up. But that habit, moving fast, moving randomly, skipping the parts of your body that actually need attention first, is working against you. Not because you're lazy, because you don't yet know what's changed under the hood. So before we get into the 3 moves, I want to walk you through the actual biology. Not to scare you, there's nothing here to be afraid of, but because once you understand what's really happening in your joints, your muscles, and your energy systems after 50, the why behind these moves will make total sense, and you'll stop guessing. This is the reality of our biology, and it's worth saying clearly, none of what follows is bad news. Your body isn't breaking down. It's simply operating under a different set of rules than it did at 30, rules that reward a slightly different approach in the morning. Once you know the rules, working with them takes almost no extra time. It just takes the right order. 5 points. Let's go through them one at a time. Point 1. Your joints are running on older fluid. Think of your joints like the hinges on a well-built door. When that door was new, the hinges were packed with fresh lubricant, and they swung smooth and quiet. Over decades of use, that lubricant thins out. The hinge still works, but it needs a moment of movement before it swings freely. That's essentially what happens with synovial fluid, the natural lubricant inside your joints. As we age, this fluid becomes less viscous and is produced in smaller amounts. Cartilage, the smooth cushioning between your bones, also loses some of its water content and elasticity over time. This is simply the reality of a joint that has been in service for 50 plus years. It is not damaged. It is not an injury. It is wear that is entirely normal and entirely manageable. Here's the piece almost nobody explains clearly. Those hinges need gentle motion to redistribute that fluid before you ask them to do real work. Jumping straight into your day or straight into exercise without that circulation step is like starting a car engine and immediately flooring it on a cold morning. The engine will run, but you're putting more strain on parts that needed 30 seconds of warm-up first. There's a second layer to this that's rarely mentioned. Synovial fluid doesn't circulate on its own the way blood does with the help of a pumping heart. It relies almost entirely on movement itself, the compression and release of the joint, to distribute nutrients into the cartilage and clear waste products out. A joint that sits still overnight, then gets asked to perform without any gentle movement first, is working with fluid that hasn't yet been redistributed. It's a bit like asking that old door hinge to swing wide open before the lubricant has had a chance to spread across the metal. That's why move 1 in today's routine isn't a stretch. It's a slow, rhythmic motion designed to recirculate that joint fluid before you load anything. Point 2. Your muscles are losing their margin. Let's talk finance for a second, because this analogy tends to land better than the biology textbook version. Imagine your muscle mass is your retirement account. In your 20s and 30s, you're making steady, sometimes even unconscious deposits through daily activity, through your job, through sport. But starting around your 40s and accelerating into your 50s and 60s, the body shifts from a net deposit pattern to something closer to a slow, gradual withdrawal, if there's no active deposit strategy in place. Research on age-related muscle loss, known as sarcopenia, shows that without resistance-based movement, adults can lose a meaningful percentage of muscle mass per decade after 50, with the rate of loss increasing further after 60. This isn't a moral failing. It isn't a sign anything is wrong with you. It's simply how the account behaves once you stop actively contributing to it. The account doesn't hit zero overnight, but the compounding works against you the longer withdrawals go unchecked. Part of this shift is tied to something researchers call anabolic resistance, a fancy way of describing the fact that after 50, your muscles become somewhat less responsive to the everyday signals that used to trigger growth and repair on their own. In your 20s, simply carrying groceries or climbing stairs sent a strong enough signal to keep the account funded. After 50, that same activity often isn't quite enough on its own. The signal has to be a bit more deliberate to get through. The good news, and this is the part that matters most, unlike a real retirement account, this one responds immediately to new deposits. Short, consistent bouts of resistance-based movement, even body weight movement, Signal your body to slow the withdrawal and start rebuilding the balance. That's move 2. Not about building bulk, about making a deposit your body still knows how to accept. Point 3. Your connective tissue is stiffer, not weaker. Here's a distinction most men never hear, and it changes how you should think about your body entirely. Tendons and ligaments, the tissue connecting muscle to bone and bone to bone, don't necessarily get weaker with age. What changes is their elasticity. Collagen, the structural protein that makes up these tissues, changes in composition and cross-linking as we age, making tendons and ligaments stiffer and less pliable than they were at 25. Think of it like the difference between a new suspension bridge cable and one that's been in place for decades. The cable hasn't lost its ability to hold weight. Structurally, it's still sound, but it has less give, less capacity to absorb sudden load or unexpected motion without extra strain. This is why sudden ballistic movement, the kind you might have done without thinking in your 30s, carries more risk of strain after 50. Not because your body is failing, because the structure now requires a gradual approach to loading, not a sudden one. There's a practical upside to this bridge cable, though. Engineers don't retire a bridge because its cables have less give. They simply manage the load differently, and the bridge keeps carrying traffic for decades more. Your body works the same way. A tendon with reduced elasticity can still handle plenty of demand. It just performs best when that demand builds gradually, rather than arrives all at once. Cold, first thing in the morning. Move 3 in today's routine works directly with this reality. Controlled full-range motion that respects how your connective tissue actually behaves now, rather than how it behaved 30 years ago. Point 4. Your mitochondria are running fewer, older engines. If muscle is your retirement account, think of your mitochondria as the individual engines inside a factory. Mitochondria are the structures inside your cells responsible for converting food and oxygen into usable energy. As we age, both the number and efficiency of mitochondria in muscle tissue tend to decline. Part of why my many men report feeling like their energy just isn't what it used to be, even when nothing is clinically wrong. This is not a mysterious mood shift. It is a measurable biological change in how efficiently your cells produce energy. And here's the part that matters. Mitochondrial function isn't fixed. Movement, specifically, movement that challenges your muscles regularly, is one of the most well-documented ways to stimulate your body to build new, more efficient mitochondria, even later in life. That morning fatigue you've been chalking up to getting older may have less to do with age itself and more to do with how long it's been since your body had a reason to build new engines. This is the real unglamorous mechanism behind why movement, done consistently and correctly, restores energy rather than draining it. There's also a broader connection here worth understanding. Mitochondrial density in muscle tissue is closely tied to how efficiently your body manages blood sugar and processes the food you eat, which is a core piece of what we mean by metabolic health. Fewer, less efficient engines don't just mean less energy for your morning walk. Over time, they make it harder for your body to handle the fuel coming in. Rebuilding that engine capacity isn't just about feeling sharper by 9 a.m. It's one of the more overlooked levers for staying metabolically resilient as the decades add up. Point 5. Your nervous system needs the signal first. Last piece. This one explains why the order of these 3 moves matters as much as the moves themselves. Your brain and body communicate through a network of nerve signals that tell your muscles when and how to fire. This is called neuromuscular activation. As we age, that communication can become slightly less efficient if it isn't regularly used. Not because the wiring is damaged, but because, like any system, it works best when it's actively maintained. Think of it like the electrical grid in an older building. The wiring is still capable, but if certain circuits haven't been used in a while, there's a brief delay before the power flows the way it should. You don't rewire the building. You just need to send the signal through first. There's a specific piece of this system worth naming: proprioception, your body's built-in sense of where it is in space without needing to look. And it's the reason you can walk downstairs without staring at your feet, or catch your balance on uneven ground without thinking about it. Proprioceptive signaling tends to dull slightly with age if it isn't regularly engaged, which is part of why balance can feel less automatic than it used to. The same movement that warms up your joints and muscles also happens to be one of the simplest ways to keep that internal sense sharp. That's the actual purpose behind sequencing these 3 moves the way we do. Fluid circulation first, then a deposit into the muscular system, then full-range structural loading. Each move sends the signal that prepares the next one to work more effectively. Skip the order, and you're asking your nervous system to do in a rushed 30 seconds what it needs a deliberate 10 minutes to properly activate. So here's the full picture in plain terms. Your joints need lubrication before load. Your muscles need consistent deposits, not occasional heroics. Your connective tissue needs gradual loading, not sudden demand. Your cells need a reason to build new energy engines. And your nervous system needs the right signal in the right order to make all of it work together. None of this is about chasing how you look. This is about the deeper stakes. Staying capable of carrying your own groceries at 75. Getting off the floor without needing a hand. Keeping the kind of metabolic health that keeps you independent, not dependent. That's what these 3 moves are actually building, 10 minutes at a time. The habit you've been relying on, a quick stretch and straight into your day, isn't wrong because you're doing something bad. It's incomplete because it skips the biological groundwork your body now genuinely needs. And once you understand that, the fix isn't complicated. It's just correctly ordered. If this gives you something useful, subscribe to Primespan after 50 and turn on the notification bell for another research-backed video on longevity, science, vitality for healthy living. I'll see you there.